Hello, we're a couple of days away from Saturday, the 15th of January, 2022. So that means that in 2 days, I'm going to offer what I've been talking about before, which is a question and answer period on my YouTube channel every third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So it's pretty sad that I'm choosing the topic to be COVID-19 because with everything happening in the world that is catastrophic and deserving the word pandemic a lot more than this virus is, I'm still going to make it about that. I wanted to say that I'm making a promise as well to wear a dress shirt. So if I forget at some point and somebody wants to say, well, I'm not watching that video, he's not wearing a shirt. Any promise? Well, you should write that in a comment because we'll know that, you probably want Trump to drive your car for you, choose which car, which insurance, choose what school your kids go to. In essence, any fictional character from the World Wrestling Federation would be who you'd want to follow, if they're at some point wearing a shirt in a video. So that's kind of who you would say you are if I forget to wear a shirt. And by the way, I know how to make ties, and you can challenge me as a question if you want. I know how to make ties that don't look crooked like my 5-year-old son did it at the last minute before the cameras were turned on. But I'm not going to wear this, because as much as I'll wear a shirt, I'm not going to be pro-slavery. I'm not going to support wearing a collar, because I care about your kids and I care about this planet. So I'm not going to go that far, and I'm not wearing dress pants, and I'm just tying one of the buttons here. They may or may not fit. The point is, the subjects we need to be talking about, you can ask me. You know what's weird, though, is cognitive dissonance will really come back in my answer related to COVID questions. For example, if Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, Canada, dies of a heart attack tomorrow, whether he had COVID or not at the time, or he's on a respirator or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that you can see that he's lived a life with bad decisions and probably had additional stress because of his cognitive dissonance. So what he really died for is cognitive dissonance and how it leads to him making bad life choices, not just for you, but for others. And I just watched the news where they showed an NDP from Ontario criticizing Ford, and when that NDP is asked the question what they would do instead of the Ford government, instead of saying the government in charge right now of, it's an attack, right? And that's what you guys like, tribe versus tribe, hockey team versus hockey team. It has nothing to do with the common sense. Now, Ford was explained, like Trudeau or any other politicians of the world that you can notice this in, that the vaccines were not designed to eliminate or cure. They were designed to reduce the number of people dying and the number of people that would be so sick that they'd need to be receiving hospital care, hospitalized. Now again, when they make decisions, whether your kids should go to school or not, or curfews, or the stores, or vaccines, you got to remember they're not long-term thinkers. Your specific kids are not part of their decision. And that's your egocentrism. It's your ethnocentrism. It's everything that is flawed in your thinking, even if you understand the concept of these vaccines. These vaccines are kind of to give you guys a little bit more time because you can't hide the fact that your social systems, such as medical care, have already been built on a house of cards and ready to crumble. Now, what I'm very disappointed in, and that's why I'm actually again choosing COVID as a topic for this on Saturday, is that it's been 2 years of you guys not doing anything about this. Not training new people quickly in a better way, in an affordable way, to relieve the workers in medical care or in education. You're actually bringing back retired people that are stressed to go back, and even more stressed because their ways aren't that great anymore. and they're not adaptable, and they're less flexible in how they're going to come back because they're suffering from stress. So again, this is an example of slavery. So the people that train, that's what you should be petitioning, not whether there's a vaccine or not a vaccine. You're never having the right conversations because of your egocentrism. But even Ford or any other politician who understands the concept of these vaccines that have succeeded, the numbers are they've all succeeded in reducing the number of people. They're still making choices for this. And you guys don't get it, and even the people that are making choices for this, they don't understand because they've got these economics, which are fictional worldviews that don't relate to the natural world, kind of conflicting with their decision-making. Some of them, these political leaders, are religious, and they're coping with their stress by getting religious guidance. It's another disconnected from reality worldview right there, and it's all going on in their heads, and they get a heart attack, and you can blame the virus when it's really your cognitive dissonance. So if you ask me questions on Saturday related to the topic of COVID-19, please try to make them go towards ecocentrism. And please remember, these... Okay, I made a word error there. That's why I stopped it and explained a few things. So again, just to remind you guys, the vaccines, that like, let's say the three main ones, have all succeeded at the reasons for which they were created, was to lower the number of people dying or getting sick enough to have to be in hospitals. Okay, that was the purpose of all the vaccines, and why as many people as possible should be taking them. And the other thing I want to say is about that NDP leader that they invited on the news that I saw, is when she was asked what she would have done that would have been different, is she had no answer. She was still kind of just criticizing somebody else. So again, this is an example of tribe versus tribe, okay? And it's the same thing. You guys have this too. You're not politicians. You're just parents arguing with other parents about the same kind of cognitive dissonance type of stuff, all right? So I'm going to start this again here. Now, yes, these vaccines are something that they're trying. It has sped up science, People might say, oh, war is great. It's helped improve medical care. And this is just cognitive dissonance, ignorance as well, right? And by the way, I criticize the WWF, but I want to say that if The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, ever wants to go for president, he would make a better president than, Ventura or Schwarzenegger would have done, because he's actually done more personal development, even though he was corrupted by the culture of putting on these images, like Trump was at some point within the World Wrestling Federation or whatever it was called at the time. So I would recommend more, The Rock or Dwayne Johnson, and it's not because I like his movies more or whatever, but it's based on personal development. If you chart his life, that's called psychohistory. You can tell that he went from being that kind of person to that kind of person to that kind of person, and it's not that he's big or strong or whether he can get mad or don't get mad. It's actually that he's actually on the growth curve as an individual, which means more likely to not succumb to cognitive dissonance and become probably a polymath or a systems thinker. So I don't know who's going to show up on Saturday in 2 days, but I'm not even sure how people would ask me questions. I have to look into that. But I promise to do this as being of service to others. And if you guys never show up, eventually I'm going to cancel after a few months. And it's not going to be COVID every time, people, because you need to start talking about the great flood that's coming, for example, right? I mean, a lot of you know that story, and you're not talking about it, and it's coming within 10 years. A flood that will be, I don't live by the ocean. Or, they're going to find something in time. Do you know how slow your societies move? You've had 2 years of proof of this to problem solve, and often taken more steps backwards. That's horrible. Even if you don't accept immigrants from other countries, Canada or even the U.S., the number of people in the next 10 years that won't be able to live in their homes or have safe drinking water because it's been contaminated by sewer lines and things like that, because it's happening faster than your slow, outdated, denial, rose-colored glasses societies can cope with, because you're focusing on things that don't relate to the natural world. They don't relate to reality. So, guys, you're not doing great in 2 years for the COVID-19. And by the way, the solution was both vaccine, right, which is kind of medicine, and psychotherapy, which was let's look at ourselves in the mirror, like Martin is saying, and follow some cultural repairing advice of whoever, and just kind of fix what is wrong with our broken systems of medical care and education and everything else. And that's really what the solutions are. And you're not doing that in 2 years. So when I say you've done very little in 2 years, I'm talking specifically about the virus. And that distracts people that are talking about this. And I don't want to be talking about this in too many vlogs because it's shameful for me when there are things coming that are a hell of a lot worse. Like, for example, do you know how many steps backwards you are taking every year with the climate emergency? And how this is a way for you guys to look good, how much you're failing with COVID-19 compared to how much you're failing with how you're destroying the biosphere. By the end of this century, it is very likely you will have devolved life on this planet for where it was hundreds of millions, if not billions of years ago, for land mammals, for certain. So that you can't get more shameful than that. So how you're screwing up at COVID-19, for me, an ecocentric man from Earth thinker, is not something I want to be focusing too much of my thought patterns on, right? But the thing is I have no choice. You guys are still not talking about the right things. I've decided when I do this live thing that I'm going to give my email, and that's where you'll send questions right away. When I talk about the Great Flood, it is not religious. It is scientific, related to the natural world. It is sea rise levels that are going to keep increasing, and no way are you even going to allow immigrants from your country to your country. You know what I'm saying? How many people like United States or Canada live by oceans that will minimum 2 feet, with worse storms every year, bringing that 2 feet and the waves and the wind even further in, mixing everything that shouldn't be mixing, that you can't live there anymore, and then the fires that you don't even have time to catch up on because of storms. Yeah, so no, it's going to be bad, and you can't even allow people moving in your own countries because your systems are so utterly broken. That's what I'm talking about. If you can stop focusing on defending your rights for things like, oh, should I put this kind of cream in my coffee or this